The Epstein files are actually being forced into the open, and this isn't a rumor, it's written into law. The House voted 427-1. The Senate waved it through with no real fight. And now the Epstein Files Transparency Act is headed to President Trump's desk, and he said he's going to sign it. Now, on the surface, this sounds huge. Congress pretending to love transparency, Trump in position to force their hand, and everybody acting like we're about to get every name, every log, every dirty secret in one big document dump. Now, that's a sales pitch, but if you've watched this government for more than 5 minutes, you know the truth is always hiding in the fine print. Now, this bill does actually have some real teeth, so let's start there. It basically tells the Attorney General within about 30 days of this becoming law that she has to release all the unclassified Epstein-related records the Department of Justice and the FBI are sitting on. We're talking documents, emails, investigative files, communications, maybe flight logs, prosecution memos, and it all has to be made public in a searchable, downloadable format, not locked away in some dusty archive or released as blurry scans at midnight. And there's one line in here that on paper is brutal for the swamp. The Attorney General is not allowed to withhold or redact something just because it will cause embarrassment, reputation damage, or political sensitivity for a government official, a public figure, or a foreign VIP. In normal language, sorry, Senator, this makes me look bad is no longer a legal excuse to hide your name in the Epstein mess. If we stopped right there, it would sound like we finally turned the corner. Congress passes the bill, Trump signs it, DOJ is forced to spill what it knows, and the whole world finally sees who was really flying on those planes and staying on that island. But this is Washington, D.C. Nobody there passes a transparency bill without building themselves an escape hatch or plan. So now we get to the part they're not reading on the news, the permitted withholdings. That's lawyer talk for here are the excuses we can still use to black things out. Now, some of this is absolutely legitimate. The Attorney General is allowed to withhold personally identifiable info from victims and child witnesses, names, addresses, medical details, anything that will re-traumatize people who were already abused by Epstein and his network. They've also allowed to keep out actual child abuse material and graphic images or unalivings, physical abuse, stuff like that. Nobody with the brain wants to see that dumped on the open internet. That stuff belongs in evidence lockers, not on Facebook and not on X. So protecting victims, keeping the most graphic evidence out of public circulation, that's not the issue. Nobody should be mad about that part. The problem is everything that comes after those obvious protections, because right under the victim language, the bill says the Attorney General may withhold or redact material if releasing it would jeopardize an active federal investigation or ongoing prosecution, as long as that withholding is narrowly tailored and temporary. On paper, that sounds reasonable. You don't want to blow up a real sting operation and destroy a case that's actually headed to trial. In practice, though, ongoing investigation is one of the oldest tricks in the book. All they have to do is keep some sliver of a case technically open, start a new review, open a new probe into some small corner of the Epstein saga, and suddenly anything uncomfortable can be stamped, sorry, can't release this, it's an active case. Then comes the other magic phrase, national security. The bill says if the Attorney General decides certain information can be disclosed in a way that protects the national security of the United States, including methods and sources, they can keep it classified. In that situation, they're supposed to give the public an unclassified summary of what they're hiding. So instead of seeing names, dates, and direct quotes, you might get something like certain sensitive foreign policy interests are implicated here. And that's it. If a powerful person's relationship with Epstein runs through a foreign intelligence service, some spy operation, or some dirty little back channel deal, it's very easy to just stuff it under the national defense and foreign policy and tell the public, trust us, we saw it, you don't need to. On top of that, the usual security state language is still there. Properly classified information under executive orders, confidential human sources, and so on. Anytime the intel community decides transparency might show how they operate, they've got language they can lean on to say no. Now, to be fair, the bill doesn't let them hide all of this in total darkness forever. If the Attorney General uses those excuses, they're required to publish justifications and provide those unclassified summaries. We're supposed to be able to see how often ongoing investigation and national security get used and where. So at least there's a paper trail. We'll know when they're pulling the national security card instead of pretending nothing exists. But here's the real question. How much do you trust DOJ lawyers and deeply embedded intel people to play fair just because the word summary is written into a statute? The bill gives top leadership a tool. In the right hands, it's a crowbar to pry open the Epstein vault. It bans embarrassment as a shield, forces out unclassified records, and puts the burden on the government to explain every time they reach for the black marker. The problem is, underneath the top names, the same people are still sitting there. The same culture that let Epstein operate for decades, cut sweetheart deals, and conveniently lost cameras and logs has not magically disappeared. So what happens next? It depends on two things: who's holding the pen and how much pressure the public applies. You matter. If this is used the way it was sold, here's what it should look like. Victims' identities protected, the truly graphic evidence kept out of public circulation, but the powerful names, connections, and timelines still visible. You should see who flew where, who signed what, and who met whom, and who was in that room when all the nothing to see here decisions were made. If instead we get a document dump where page after page is thick black bars with little labels like ongoing investigation and national security covering all the places you would expect to see recognizable names and institutions, then you'll know the swamp is still trying to run the clock and cover themselves. And that's where ordinary people actually have leverage for once, because unlike before, they won't be able to say we don't have anything, or there are no records, or it's all sealed forever. Sorry. They will have to admit what they are holding back and give some kind of a reason. That gives people something to push on. That gives us leverage. If they hide behind national security to cover some politician or foreign partner, it'll be there in black and white. If they claim ongoing investigation on parts of this thing have been ongoing for 10 or 15 years with no real movement, everyone will be able to point to it and say, okay, so which is it? Are you ever going to finish this? Or are you just using that phrase as a permanent shield? The right way to respond is not to sit back and hope. When those files start coming out, people need to actually read them, share them, pull out the key pieces, and call out the games as they happen and the names. If there's an honest effort to reveal the truth, you'll see it. If there's a cover up with nice packaging, you'll see that too. This bill is the closest thing yet to forcing the system to cough up what it knows about Jeffrey Epstein. It has good parts, it has dangerous loopholes, and it was only possible because the political pressure finally got high enough that even the people who never wanted this had to pretend they did. The point of a video like this is not to tell you everything's fine now. It's to make sure that when they say the Epstein files have been released, you know how to tell the difference between real transparency and a carefully controlled leak designed to protect the same people who've been protected all along. Now, the files are supposed to be coming. The law says they have to move. Now it's on everybody paying attention to watch how they move, what they show, and what they still refuse to let you see.